Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Secret Origins of Mnintcondition. And this is our 300th episode, folks. We made it 300 episodes. And to celebrate our 300th episode, we are going to talk about a movie that we've referenced many times throughout our 300 episodes, a podcast that we've said we're going to do for a long time. And it's finally here. We are talking about Back to the Future. And joining me in this time traveling epic event for the podcast is, of course, Joe.
Howdy, James. How are you doing, folks? I got lost somewhere between 1955 and 1985, though.
There you go. I'm surprised you didn't get stuck in the Old West, Joe. Like
Hey, that's rather be, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, joining me is he's usually here for Halloween, but this is his favorite movie franchise. Is my brother Patrick.
How you doing, everyone?
And of course, also joining us is another regular guest of the show who's been a part of all the 100th episodes. And this is also one of his favorite movie franchises. Josh is with us as well.
I have this crazy idea about breeding pine trees.
And unfortunately, Chris is not with us. He hopefully at some point he may join us. We'll catch up with him. He's caught somewhere in the time stream, but we'll go back in the DeLorean or in our souped up locomotive and go back in time and catch up with him at some point. So anyway, but we're jumping ahead to part 3, and we haven't even talked about part 1. So obviously, folks, we could talk about lots of things of Back to the Future, but I'm going to just start us off with a basic question with any movie. Is why Back to the Future? I'm sure there's lots of reasons why we love this movie, love this franchise, love everything that's associated with it. But we're just going to start there. So, Patrick, I'm just, because I know we've obviously grew up together. We shared love of lots of movies, but this seems to be the one that stuck with you through all of them. Why is Back to the Future one of your favorite movies of all time?
I think it's just people always say that no movie's perfect. For me, Back to the Future is a perfect movie. It's got just the premise alone is, as a kid especially, it just immediately draws you in to the idea that there's a mad scientist, goofy guy who his best friend is a punk skateboard rocker kid who then gets sent back in time. It's like as a kid, it's like almost every kid's fantasy is like this kind of sci-fi epic. And I think, and then just aside from that, it's just the visuals of, just the DeLorean time machine itself is something that's stuck with me ever since I first saw the movie. It's like, it is my favorite car. If I were to ever own just the most ridiculous, frivolous, spending of money, it would be to buy a DeLorean and set it up like the DeLorean time machine and have my own. Like, this model behind me is the closest I'm going to get for a long time. But, it's one of those comfort movies too. There's so much nostalgic value attached to Back to the Future. And some of like my greatest memories, like hanging out with my friends, is just, talking about all our fan theories about time travel and all the different things that could be going on in the background with Back to the Future. It's just there's a lot of positive linked to that movie for me, and it's part of the reason why I always go back to it.
No, that's great. I love all the things you've highlighted. I would say I have similar things, but I'm gonna wait and save it till my turn. But Patrick, your love for Back to the Future, I think, is equaled by Josh's love of this movie in this franchise. So, Josh, I'm curious what, going from what my brother said, what makes Back to the Future a movie that we have talked about in bits and pieces, or you keep returning to?
Yeah, talk about formative. This is one of those movies where, like, so many quotations from it are just a part of my everyday vernacular. Not even the obvious ones, just like random lines. I do agree. Like, I think this movie is just a perfect storm of so many things going right and working phenomenally well. And for a kid, it's like there is the amazing idea of traveling in time. And I think, this movie was probably my first introduction to the concept of time travel. And the doc says, he did it. It does it with style. Like, there is no cooler car or cooler time machine than the DeLorean. You know, I read that in the initial drafts of the screenplay, the time machine was built out of a refrigerator,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they decided
they
that
reused it later in Crystal Skull.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I was
yeah.
thinking.
Just imagine this exact same movie, except you replace the DeLorean with a refrigerator. It's like the movie would still more or less work and be good and fun, but it would not feel as exciting or as, I don't know. Like, there's just something about that car. So we also have John DeLorean to thank for at least a part of how well this movie works. So yeah, so it's like it's an awesome concept. It's really visually stunning. But I think the real key here is that the characters are just as compelling as the car,
Yeah.
and you're just as invested, in the fortunes of Marty and Christopher Lloyd as you are, the universe rending potential destruction of the space-time continuum. And it's really interesting because the producer Bob Gale, he talks about how the germ for the idea of the movie, they didn't start out like, hey, let's make a movie about time travel. Like, the germ for the idea was he was visiting home, and they were cleaning out the basement or something, and he stumbled upon his dad's high school yearbook. He was flipping through it, and he saw that his father was like the class president or something, which he had never known. And then he was just sort of like, he just sort of was imagining like, I, I wonder if my dad and I would have been friends. And that was like the germ of the whole idea. It's like, what if you could see your mother and father when they were your age, right?
Mm.
So I think so much of why the movie works is because it's really grounded in the origins of it are these really uh, personal sorts of explorations, and the fact that they had the good fortune of they made a decision that was a budgetary decision, because I think originally, like, the climax of the movie, they had to drive the DeLorean through like a nuclear explosion in the desert or something for the 1.21 gigawatts, all to get Marty home to 1985, and they realized that they didn't have the budget to realize that sequence. So their solution was, well, we already have this thing with the clock tower, so let's make that the sort of the MacGuffin or whatever. It's like, the thing where. So then what happens is the whole thing becomes about Hill Valley. So because it's like so self-contained, and this is something that they continue in the second and third movies, like, it's just so well, like, it just all lines up. It just makes so much logical sense. Yeah, I think it's just like, it's just you love the characters, you love the car, you love the idea. It's funny. There's like drama, and like, yeah, there's just nothing not to like about this movie.
I agree. Joe, like, I know you. I don't know where you feel about it. I know Patrick and Josh. This is like up there in their top 5 movies of all times and stuff like that. But what do you think of Back to the Future, and where does it land for you?
Well, for me, I'd seen time travel movies before, but this was the first one that did not give me a headache because it was fun. It's a comedy, action, adventure. And I think Josh hit on something there. It's like, we've spoken about this before many times, but especially with Star Trek and other science fiction movies. But ultimately, if it's not about people, and this movie is about family, and that's what really grounds it. And of course, it grounds it in the town, and that's what makes it work. There's some flashy special effects, obviously with the car, But if you don't have a story about people, I don't care what genre you're making, it's not going to work. So yeah, and I mean, and I've told you, I saw these movies out of order. I saw 1, 3, and 2. So till this day, I've never seen them in the proper order. So I got a little catching up to do. But it's fun. It's what could I compare it to another movie? I'm trying to think of a time travel movie that did give me a headache. Well, I mean, there's Time Travel in 2001 that gave me a gigantic headache. Beautiful to look at, but still, I have no idea what the hell that movie's about.
Well, your other favorite movie is Star Trek 4.
There you go. Okay, thank you, James. Yes,
and that's about family, as
it's about family. It's time travel, and it's
isn't First Contact? Is that First Contact?
First Contact. Well, Star Trek 4 is about the whales when they go back to
the whales. They go back in time to save the Earth. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. Okay. Yeah. Fun.
I didn't mean to take it from you, Joe. I just
I'm glad you did, because the old synapses don't fire as quickly as they used to. So I'm glad you helped me out there. But that's why I love this film. If I had to put it it's not in my top 10, but it's probably my top 20.
Oh yeah, I mean it's but you love it as a franchise, and you love it as a piece of I just.
And the third is a Western. The third one is a Western.
That's a Western. It's like
my ballywick. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this would be in my top 10 movies. I mean, I'd really have to think about it, but I mean, obviously, Back to the Future was, for all the reasons that have been discussed, I love it. The car is probably I feel like the car is amazing. In fact, Josh, I think I told you an anecdote, and Patrick, I don't know if you remember this, but I loved it enough, and they didn't make a DeLorean, that I actually took my real Ghostbusters Ecto-1 and outfit it to be a DeLorean type of thing. That's how much I
cool.
when I was growing up. So I put the rebarb on the outside of the Ecto-1, and I had time traveling Ghostbusters, which not far from Dan Aykroyd's original script, but that's a whole other thing. But but yeah, I mean, I like Back to the Future. I mean, obviously Doc and Marty, that's the relationship, as we've all spoken about, that I think is the glue together. And Josh, you hit on that thing where it's the whole universe through all three movies is very self-contained around this town, these people, and this particular family of the McFlys in some form. It's all built into this one cohesive sort of self-contained thing. Meanwhile, they're doing things that could affect the entire universe, I guess, as we know it. The stakes are not higher, but you don't, I guess, but the stakes also feel very personal. They don't really expound. I'm sorry, Patrick, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say there has to be some kind of crazy butterfly effect happening when George McFly becomes a successful author. The ripple effect, across not just the family, but the whole, I guess, even part of that country, the U.S., people working in publishing industry now being affected by his success, and all, other up and coming authors and shit, this stuff to think about. But
well, remember, Josh, I don't know if you remember, I came to you once. I don't want to get too sidetracked on this, but I asked you this random question, sort of deep dive nerd question. I was if in that universe where Marty McFly goes back and alters time by giving Marty basically gives George McFly, his dad, the idea for the spaceman, who he calls himself Darth Vader. So is in Star Wars that exists in that new timeline, is there a Darth Vader also? That is, or did George McFly come up with Darth Vader, and Darth Vader in Star Wars known as something different in the new universe?
The Vulcans.
And also the Vulcans, yes.
That's right, Vulcans, yes, right.
So did he throw off George Lucas? So this is I don't want to go down crazy tangent, but yes, I was thinking about that butterfly. Does Darth Vader exist in Marty McFly's new timeline as Darth Vader, or does he exist as George McFly's space alien named Darth Vader? So
110 years after 1950. Is it 110 years? Josh will figure this out. 2065 First Contact. So
it was also
2063.
Okay, so closer, yeah.
Does George McFly freak out when he hears Van Halen? Does it bring him back to when he was visited by a Martian?
Yeah. Yeah, I think Patrick and Josh, you both said it. If you look at these movies in the way that they're written and don't get too lost in quantum physics or the nature of time travel, it works very linearly as a perfect story. I feel if you start to nitpick on the butterfly effect and what time travel is, and obviously maybe we can get into this or not, Eric Stoltz's portrayal of Marty McFly is highly influenced by the ending of the movie, where he realizes that he's playing Marty very somberly, because Marty realizes that his new family, he's the only one who remembers his old family, and he's going back to a future and a life that he doesn't share with anybody else except himself. Robert Zemeckis and Spielberg. Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis like, this is a bummer. We can't have like.
Yeah. There's a story about the table read with Eric Stoltz where they had finished reading the movie together and they were all, commenting and talking about how great it was and how much fun it was and how funny it is. And it gets to Eric Stoltz and he's like, I don't think it's funny at all. I think it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy, really. Like, my character, he's lost his family and he's the only one who remembers. And the whole table was kind of like, oh, this is not, he doesn't get it. Like, he's making a different movie than the movie we're trying to make.
Definitely.
And it's not wrong. It's just not the movie that they were trying to make.
Great. I mean, if you, having in preparation for this podcast, Patrick, you kindly gave us the, what was the name of the pod? Let's give us a shout out. The name of the pod.
What Went Wrong.
What Went Wrong podcast that talks about Back to the Future. And I listened to Michael J. Fox's recent book about it. And there's a lot, like, there are obviously deeper elements to this movie that are in there, that if you want to really dissect, the things that they're making commentaries about, the behavior of 1950s versus like the 1980s. But, when Michael J. Fox came aboard, he's able to. It's not like they cut those things out, but he got it the assignment that it's supposed to be a comedy.
Right.
And while there is like racism and the way women are treated is poorly, like, it's also handled in a way in which you are still on this like action adventure romp, as you said, Joe. Like, it's like you're still having fun. So I mean, I obviously it probably goes without saying that Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd just together make. I mean, again, the DeLorean is cool and everything, but without the two of them, the chemistry and the characters, like Christopher Lloyd, like, to go back to our Star Trek 3 episode, I think he did Krug like first, right? And then
1 year before this, Star Trek 3, yeah.
Yeah. So like, I think Krug like laid the groundwork, and Professor and Reverend Jim laid the groundwork for.
Oh, definitely Reverend Jim. I was watching a Taxi episode about an hour ago before we started.
Yeah, but Christopher Lloyd's Doc Brown is like, he's one of I will say in like my pantheon of pop culture characters, he's got to be in my top 20. I love Doc Brown. Like,
he's amazing, and I think it's just a testament to how brilliant that performance is, because. Again, I grew up watching these movies, so I never really questioned it. But if you stop and you think about it for a second, like the choices that Christopher Lloyd made in his performance of this character, they're like not necessarily the most obvious ones. Like, I think I read he decided to give him these like larger than life gesticulations using a conductor, of like an orchestra, as sort of a model, and so the character is like theatrical and larger than life. And it had never really occurred to me, like how not obvious a choice that is necessarily. And once again, like, imagine Back to the Future without the DeLorean. Like, you can't imagine this movie working nearly as well without that exact performance. And it's the same thing with Michael J. Fox. It's like the tone that he hits. Never for a moment do you feel like he's not fully invested in like the gravity of what's happening, and yet there's like a lightness that's there as well. And like, that's a very hard needle to thread. And yeah, I mean, like, I don't envy the job of having to fire your lead actor 5 weeks into shooting.
Wow.
But like, they were absolutely 100% correct, I think.
Oh yeah, they were definitely correct. I mean, it's Michael J. Fox is the other half of this movie, and a lot of the things, at least that he shared in his biography, that I found like were things that he put in there. His comedic chops from doing comedic television, like he knew where to like add, like a lot of those pratfalls he does, like when he's in the bedroom with his mom and she's giving the pants and he's like stumbling and falls on the ground. Like he suggested that. Like that was they did the first take, and he's like, I think I should fall here. And then in the barn before he gets shot at, he made the choice to like fall, like all these like physical comedy and
to stumble backwards.
stumble backwards. Yeah, when he slides across the car to get in the like he just did it on the take, and Robertson like so it was like he just instinctively I guess knew who Marty McFly is. Patrick, I'm curious because I've always been drawn to Doc Brown, but you seem to have like a real affinity for Marty McFly also. Like what like I know you shared a little bit, but what also about Marty like do you like about the character?
I think when you really think about the character of Marty McFly, he's also, as well as his dad in 1955, he's a bit of an underdog kind of dude. Like he's kind of the cool kid, but he also is, struggling to make it as, as a rock star. Clearly still trying to like figure himself out. And he also just seems like the idea that a high school kid like Marty McFly could become friends with an old man like Doc Brown. Just that whole concept alone is like, I don't know, it's really endearing. I like that he's not like just kind of shrugging him off. Like they made this bond. Like Doc Brown builds him a giant, like 6 foot tall, 8 foot wide speaker that would kill a person. They're clearly
There's a slight possibility of overload.
Yeah.
That's such a great visual.
Yeah, I know there's fan theories out there. I can't really remember, but I would really like to know how Doc Brown and Marty became friends. Like, what were the circumstances that brought the two of them together? Or is it some kind of weird time loop where the events of Back to the Future are the reason why they are friends now, kind of thing?
Well, are they both have a loner quality to them, but they both have also a rebel quality to them. And, Marty McFly is like a ersatz James Dean when you think about it,
Sure, yeah.
So, right? So, it's that they're layered, textured characters. And I think they're obviously fated to meet in this film, but, you buy into it. I don't think there's any time you think, oh, no, this friendship is not real. No, it's...
No, they clearly care about each other.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
they do. They really do.
Yeah, I mean they're in it, and it's also something like I think it's really, once like and their friendship like obviously we only see the friendship in the 1955 version, but you're assuming like that once Doc Brown realizes Marty's not lying to him, like they immediately lock into it. There's like no distrust between the two of them. Like you could have easily written that thing like all right, I believe it from the future, but he still might hold back in that. But there's like they're equally like friends. Like he's trying to like tell him how to like get his dad to ask his mom out on a date, and it's just
this kind of leads into the fan theory I was mentioning before we started recording. But there you would have to think like, so there is the original timeline how Doc and Marty meet. There's that. And then there's the events of the first movie, which probably negates how they originally met. Because now Doc Brown knows he has to become friends with Marty McFly for all of this to work out. You know what I mean?
We don't necessarily know. I mean, we don't necessarily know that it changes anything, because you would imagine, given all of his concern about protecting events and the space-time continuum, like, he could be like, well, I know it's supposed to happen like this, so
true. Well, I guess for Marty McFly it's exactly, I mean, I guess for the two of them it's exactly the same. I guess Doc Brown just, I guess maybe inadvertently it happens the way it's intended to happen, because Doc Brown knows it has to.
Of course, then I figured, what the hell?
What about all that talk about screwing up future events, space-time continuum? What the
let's just gamble with the lives of this entire planet.
But that was the perfect.
And it's so funny. It's so funny also because like it's scotch taped up. So like so that means that later on he looked at the ground, saw the paper, and was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna let this go." He's like, I changed my mind. I want to know.
Right. Well, there's a couple things even in the opening when you see like the montage of all the clocks, and up until the point where the time machine finally travels through time for the first time supposedly. So I know there's a clock it's meant to be a reference to an old like silent film where like there's a dude hanging from the clock tower.
Oh, Harold Lloyd.
Sure. Yeah. And I know it's meant to be that, but I always looked at it as more of that Doc Brown knows that what you see in the movie has already happened for Doc Brown when you first see him in the beginning of
Oh,
the
I'm
movie.
getting it. I'm getting my spidey senses starting to.
Yeah, so the clock is more of just like a nod to that moment for Doc Brown, and then the moment when they start recording and the DeLorean is revving up, and they're standing like right in the path of the DeLorean, right? Supposedly, if that's the very first time that DeLorean is traveling into the future or the past, and you don't know it's going to work, are you really going to stand in the path of a car traveling at 88 miles per hour? So to me, like at this point, Doc is doing this because he knows it's going to work.
Yeah.
Like it's going to travel through time, and there's no danger in them standing in the path of this speeding car.
I wonder if Doc Brown has a friend in this era named Pelia.
Oh, yeah, from Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, things are starting to fit together here, aren't they?
I mean, things fit together, like they do fit together. But if you go down that route too far, then you could also be like, my first thing comes to like, well, in Back to the Future 3, when DeLorean gets busted and they run out of gasoline, couldn't have they gone to the other DeLorean, got the gas out of that one, put it in the one they needed, and then Doc and Marty would have just fixed the DeLorean in 1955, and not they could have like avoided the whole thing. But if you start going down these routes, you're gonna like tear apart the like the linear time.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think this goes back to like a night years ago, but I think at one point my friends and I figured out, and I can't remember if it's in part 2 or 3, but there's a moment in the franchise where there are, I think, 3 DeLoreans in Hill Valley. There's one in a cave, there's one on the main street, and then there's the one in the parking lot.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Forgot that. Okay.
I was just going to say, you were talking about how Marty and the Doc are sort of, both of them are sort of rebels and stuff. You know what's interesting? It's subtle, but it is there. So Marty starts out the movie, he's wondering if he can make it as a musician, and he doubts himself and he's lacking in confidence. When he meets the 1955 version of the Doc for the first time, I think that when we find him, he's also similarly lacking in confidence, because if you remember, when Marty shows him the flux capacitor, Doc says he's overwhelmed because he says, "I finally invent something that works." Right? So, and when he meets him, he's wearing that like mind reading ray or whatever it is, and that thing doesn't work. So it's clear that he's frustrated with himself, and he's doubting himself. And then it's through meeting Marty. He actually says, I think he has a line where he's saying to Marty that like he can't explain the impact that just meeting him has had on his life. Knowing that he will live to see 1985 and that he'll invent the time machine. And so it's interesting. Like, I do think that they are sort of similar.
Very much so, yes.
Very much so. Yeah. I mean, you could also argue. I mean, if again, not to go down the loop of like spiraling through timelines, but you could also argue like once he sees the DeLorean, like he also like he didn't like he had the vision of the flux capacitor, but once he physically sees the time machine, it must be in that loop a little bit easier to build it. I mean, some of the technology obviously has not been invented, but he at least will know about the parts and things like not to like go down that whole route, but yeah, it just like he gets the confidence and he knows the knowledge, so it's like, but he also knows like this will happen, so it's sort of like
he'll get there.
Yeah.
There's an interesting point someone brought up on a podcast that I was listening to today about there is an additional time travel experiment that Doc Brown does that like went over my head all these years. Was why or how did Doc Brown get all the clocks in his shop to be 25 minutes slower? And there was like a fan theory about Doc Brown didn't want to immediately test the time machine on a living creature, so he tested it as some kind of time vortex thing within the confines of his garage, and somehow got the clocks to jump forward, ahead, or behind the clocks that you see when Marty walks into the studio.
Interesting. I mean, there's like a whole lot of bunch of fan theories that'd be fun to how he tested all of this stuff out before he knew it would work. I mean, he must have run tests to figure out it before he set upon building the DeLorean at the final model. So
Right.
Well, what is interesting about that is that that phone call, he's already like, okay, Marty, I need you to show up at 1 a.m. in the parking lot of Twin Pines Mall. He's intending to go through with this experiment, the initial time travel experiment with a DeLorean, and then we find out, or then he finds out. He goes, oh, perfect, my experiment worked. That means all the clocks are exactly 25 minutes slow, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was an experiment that he was relying on the outcome of for the DeLorean, then he must have already been fairly confident that it would work.
Right.
But
Well,
and I used to wonder, I was like, what? I mean, that's a good point. Like, what could that experiment possibly have been? It's like,
right.
what is the point of making all those clocks 25 minutes slow?
Right. He just wanted
So
to troll. He just wanted to troll Marty and make him late to school.
Yeah, basically.
It could be it.
well, I mean, we spent a lot of time on Doc, Marty, and the DeLorean as we should, but there's the other actor, Crispin Glover's portrayal of George McFly, I think, is singular. Obviously, it caused a lot of headaches on set with Zemeckis and Spielberg, and Leah Thompson's portrayal of Lorraine, like they do. And then I always forget his name, but whoever the actor who played Biff.
Yeah,
Tom Wilson or something.
Tom Wilson, yeah.
Tom Wilson is spot on as Biff.
He's great.
The most classic role of a bully that you could ever imagine.
Best bullies of all time in film. He's one of the greatest. He's not the greatest bully of all time on film. I think he's a great bully. He's, he plays it to the hilt, but it's not two dimensional. There's there's background to that. There's nuance to that. But you got to be somebody in the film that you love to hate, and he's the guy.
He's the guy, yeah.
I had heard that a lot of his one-liners were ad-libbed by Tom Wilson. Yeah, like the classic one where he's like, "Make like a tree and get out of here," was done by him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, he's a comedian now.
He's moved on to do a lot of voiceover work and whatnot, and he wrote a song years ago about not wanting to be asked about Back to the Future.
Really?
Yeah.
He went the Leonard Nimoy route for a while.
like, don't ask me to call you butthead.
Oh, that's funny.
But I think everyone in that movie is just as important as Doc, Marty, and the DeLorean. Like, you can't have Back to the Future without these people. Like, they played the roles so perfectly and so well that to picture anybody else in those roles is just, impossible.
That's what happens in an iconic film. When you have these great movies, but again, whatever the genre is, you always say that you can't picture anybody else in these roles, and then you find out that, like for instance, Carol O'Connor was not the first choice for Archie Bunker. It was actually a couple of people, including Mickey Rooney, and you're like, I knew who Mickey Rooney was. I've seen his films, and I remember in the day, and it's like you can't picture anybody but Carol O'Connor as Archie Bunker, William Shatner as Captain Kirk. So yeah, and that's a testament not only to the actor, but the film they're in, and that the writers, the directors, and the crew, because they make this iconic film and they make that role iconic, and you can't picture anybody else in it.
What would you guys? What would all of you say is your favorite scene in the original Back to the Future? Let's just stick with the original movie.
Oh, the ending is so exciting. I mean, this is just so cool. I like the scene in the. Go ahead. Somebody else. Go ahead. Train of thought. Yeah.
Probably towards the climax of the movie when the DeLorean Marty backs up all the way down to the end of the main street, and he's like, flux capacitor is fluxing, car is running, and then the car dies. Doc Brown is trying to reconnect the wire. And then Marty slams his head into the steering wheel and the car starts up again, and he starts speeding off, and Doc Brown takes off his trench coat and slides down the wire just in time to connect it. Somehow doesn't die after being struck by lightning.
Yeah, well,
okay.
He is the the connection between the two wires. like that moment is just it's very iconic. Like you get the streaks of fire down Main Street towards the movie theater.
Yeah, I heard Martin. I mean, Michael J. Fox said in his book like the engine
Yeah.
running, flux capacitor fluxing was an ad lib line by him because he was so tired that it just
Oh, was
like yeah, that just came out of him that way. And Zemeckis like, great, we'll use that. Great take.
I hope he got that take where he hits his head in
Yeah.
one shot. 'Cause it looks like he just literally slams his forehead into the steering wheel.
Well, he's like I mean, he seems like he's into physical comedy, Michael J. Fox. So
Yes,
I mean, not that that's good for the body, because like plenty of comedians have hurt themselves in real life for their pratfalls. But I think he was just so happy to be doing Back to the Future. It seemed like he was like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, no, there are great physical comedians. Lou Costello, Lucille Ball. I mean,
Yes.
just to name a few. So yeah.
Joe, you're going with the climax of the movie too?
Yeah, I think so. Was the scene in the sweet shop, was that in the first film also?
Yeah, that's when he's being chased by Biff.
When he sits down, he sits next to his father, doesn't realize
Yes.
it. That's a cool scene.
Oh,
That's
that
what-
one.
yeah, yeah.
That's
But
Where
yeah,
he says,
and
"You're
then
George McFly."
yeah, because he thinks it's him, and he, hey McFly, and you know. So I thought that was a great scene. Yeah, I like that. But the ending is just one of the best endings in film history.
Okay.
I think it's just so cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
exciting.
Josh, I know we lost you for a little bit there. What would be your favorite scene in Back to the Future?
Well, you know, the scene that Patrick was describing, and even that particular moment was the first thing that came into my mind. It's so dramatic because, like, you know exactly what the plan is because they've gone through it, so you know what it's relying on, and then everything goes wrong simultaneously. It's like one thing after another, and the lengths that they're willing to go to make it work. Like, I love the moment where Doc is like, he thinks he's reconnected it, and then the one down there is broken, and he screams, and then he's just like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to zip line down there. And yeah, I think he was wearing like some kind of gloves, right? Maybe they were insulated. And
He's not electrocuted.
No, but I think he was mostly relying on his trench coat to get him down the line safe.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
I love the face he makes too. That's the face he makes when the the whole this is the same face he makes when the fake DeLorean, when they do the test, goes into the rags and catches fire.
That's a scene I love. I used to quote that moment growing up all the time because I just thought it was hilarious.
What, that's not built? What, that the not built to scale?
I apologize for the crudity of this model. I didn't have time to build the scale.
Yeah. I like I like it. I love that scene too with that line. He's not built to scale because Marty's just like, it's great, Doc. It's great.
Yeah.
And I love how in the third movie, I love like the reprise of that in the third movie. It's like he's really he's really hard on himself with these models.
He built Hill Valley twice.
He did build Hill
Yeah.
Valley. Well, Josh, I know you got to jump in a few moments, so I just want to I want to give you a proper send off. I appreciate you being a part of this because obviously Back to the Future is one of your favorite movies. We couldn't talk about Back to the Future for the 300th episode without you, so thank you for being here.
Oh no, I appreciate that. I'm sorry that I seem to have screwed this recording up for multiple reasons.
It's fine. We're gonna fix it in post.
Yeah, it's always possible.
But yeah, we definitely have to do another episode on this movie because I can talk about this for another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. So,
well, luckily we have 2 more movies. We can keep going with it.
There should be a bonus episode where we just focus on fan theories.
Oh, the fan theories, yep. And I don't know. Is anybody...
And then another bonus episode where we just quote random lines from the movie at each other.
Yeah, I think.
Well, like we did with Star Trek 4 at the end of that
We should
episode.
try to just go through all the lines of the movie and see how far we get before we make a mistake.
That's interesting. I kind of like that.
We'll do our live we'll do like a production of Back to the Future for the podcast and
Yeah. The longest episode yet. It's like 2 hours.
Unfortunately, it needs something with more kick. Plutonium.
We'll do our table read.
Doc,
the RJ will read. Yeah.
are you saying this
Yeah,
sucker's nuclear?
No, this sucker's electrical.
No. This sucker's electrical. Oh, but I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 kilowatts of electricity I need. Doc, you don't just walk to the store and buy plutonium.
Josh, I love the I also this impression is particularly good because you even got the high pitched crack in Marty's voice. So that's well, Josh, I will let you go, but obviously, and thank you for being part of another 100th episode because you've been for 100, 200.
I am honored.
And now we are at 300, so we'll have to pencil you in for 400, whatever that'll be. But I luckily have time to think about what that'll be.
I am beyond honored. Thank you so much, and thanks, guys, for continuing to do this. I love both listening and also getting a chance to have these conversations with my friends because I don't really have anyone else to have these conversations with. So,
well, that's why we started the podcast. Yeah,
Exactly.
Thank you,
all right, my
Josh.
friends.
All right, so just kind of I know Josh had to go early. We'll catch up with Chris somewhere down the time stream, but I'm curious. We just talked about our favorite scenes. What would you? I guess Patrick, since this is like I said, one of your favorite movies. What else really stands out to you? Like I know there's so much we could cover about Back to the Future, but what else is like something you'd like to touch upon before we at least put this first part of our Back to the Future coverage to rest?
Well, this is the first thing that popped in my head. It's Back to the Future related, but it's not really. The backlot where they filmed Back to the Future, when they built Hill Valley, is the same set they used for the first Gremlins movie.
Oh, you know
That's
that.
also
okay.
That's in the opening shot. They pan over the clock tower and over the the front lawn and everything like that.
Where is Hill Valley supposed to be located? Do we know? Is it in California?
Yeah. I think Southern California, I believe.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the other scene. If I didn't pick the climax of the movie, I was going to pick the one that Joe was mentioning, where
Sweet Shop. Yeah.
I guess there's two scenes at the Sweet Shop. There's the one where Marty first meets George, and then there's the one where George goes in to try and talk to Lorraine, and Biff comes in and ruins it, and then that leads into like the car chase where Marty's trying to get away on a skateboard while he's being chased by a car. The first time you see Biff crash into a truck full of manure. A gag that repeats for
the gag that just keeps on giving. It's a great gag.
And that's the scene where Marty invents the skateboard, right?
Marty invents a skateboard.
Yeah, he breaks a scooter and creates a skateboard.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in 2015, the Cubs win the World Series, right? In this trilogy of films?
Yeah, I think that's something where like Back to the Future predicted.
Well, they won in real life, they won in 2016, so they came damn close.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, I didn't know in preparing for this movie like how much Steven Spielberg was involved in the production of this movie. Like
they had his backing and his blessing, so I think that carried a lot of weight to get this movie made.
Yeah, and I think he was in on the dailies too, when they were like realizing that the version with Eric Stoltz wasn't working, and they had to because I think he went to the head of which was it, Paramount? No, it wasn't Paramount. I forget which production company they were going to, but they went in together, Zemeckis and Spielberg, and said this is not working. We have to like reshoot. So Spielberg,
I can't remember
was,
who it was that told them to just keep filming, so that people didn't so that progress wasn't just halted. They could keep making, shooting different scenes that didn't require, Doc and Marty, and keep things going. I guess
that was probably the second unit director was doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, if they found out that they were replacing one of their lead actors, that they might lose too much of the crew in the process.
I mean, Spielberg was like he was doing Poltergeist, Gremlins, and Back to the Future all at the same time.
Wow, replacing actors at the 11th hour is not as uncommon as you might think. I mean, Captain Picard came in late to Star Trek. That was going to be that French woman that was going to be the captain, and
I didn't.
Yeah, they looked at that film of that. And said, no, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
So they found Patrick Stewart. I think he was on deck basically, but
Roddenberry didn't want him originally. So
no, he did not. No.
Roddenberry did not want Patrick Stewart. And the same thing. Well, Zemeckis and Spielberg wanted Michael J. Fox in the beginning. They just couldn't get him. Like this role was written with Michael J. Fox in mind. Like they knew who Marty McFly was, and
Well, I guess that's part of the reason why he worked so well for the role, is because it was literally written for him.
yeah, he was. He didn't find out about this movie was even being made until he was doing Teen Wolf, and apparently that was a rough production for him too, because it was like covered in yak hair.
Oh yeah, my
for
God!
how many hours a day?
All the prosthetics that they had to use. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many. I love the whole guitar finale scene too, where he saves his mom and dad. He saves himself.
He creates rock and roll.
He creates rock and roll, which is
that's one of those like, man.
Yeah.
Now here's a question: was this created as a trilogy? Was not
No,
was it planned that way? Or?
I think it was, from what I remember, it was intended to be a single movie, and then after it was such a huge success in the VHS releases, they added at the credits to be continued.
Interesting. Okay.
So if you saw it in theaters in, what was it, 86, it would have just said, that just would have been the end of the movie.
The end,
yeah. Which is a good ending. I mean, it's an ending that rolls right into a sequel.
Was it the visual effects artist who did that ending sequence where the DeLorean flies for the first time? They were like, oh man, I really, that scene bugs me to this day. It's like the shadows on the ground as the DeLorean flies doesn't make any sense. And he's like, the scene looks great. Shut up. No one cares about the shadows.
Well, it's a consummate artist. The artist always wants it to be perfect. So,
well, that was before CGI, right?
Yeah, it was like all compositing.
Yeah. But I still think that holds up. It still looks good. Yeah.
I mean, I saw the movie last year. I've seen it recently, so it's still good to me. I mean, this is the 40th anniversary of it, so
40 years. Holy
40
cow.
years. 40 years of Back to the Future, Joe. Yep.
I'd like to go back to 40 years.
Well, Patrick, I'm curious, like, as we always ask you when we talk about movies, does anything Back to the Future come across your desk in terms of like the props you've restored or props you've seen?
Stuff.
Oh, cool.
I think
anything you can share, as we always say.
Don't want to put you on the spot,
I'm pretty sure it's all public, or it's all posted on the website. The only thing specifically from the first movie that I think has been to the studio is the little toy wind-up red car that runs off the table and bursts into flames. And I'm pretty sure it's specifically the one that ignites, because there's a couple of burn marks on the underside of the car, and there's a little igniter tucked away inside of it. That was a cool moment, because like I remember I took that project from start to finish. The car itself didn't need any restoration, but it needed a custom display, and so we did a little mock-up of, I guess, Town Hall. I think that's or the municipal building that's supposed to be. They got struck by lightning. Tom was literally like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to kind of represent that building. So it's like, it's not to scale or whatever. And I'm just like taking paint bottles and bits of cardboard and pens and pencils and like making this model of the model that Doc Brown did.
You're like Doc Brown. You're like, I apologize. It's not the scale and not paint.
Yeah. It's funny. I think it notes it on the website, but there's a little, just like in the movie, there's a little watch at the top of the clock tower. And I froze it at 10:04 when the clock tower gets struck by lightning.
Oh, very nice, Patrick. Very nice. Very nice. Well, I'll have to see if we get a picture of that too when we post this episode. But
is
there anything else
from Back to the Future?
Yeah, notable from Back to that you can speak about. That's a very notable thing.
Marty McFly's future jacket.
Oh, that's cool.
We've had two pairs of his self-lacing sneakers come into the studio.
Hoverboard?
We had a hoverboard? I think we've had a hoverboard.
Oh, cool.
And I got to see in person the Mr. Fusion. Didn't come to the studio. I just got to see it in someone's collection. That was like, there's all this other stuff in this guy's collection that I was seeing, and then I see this box. I'm like working at a table, and I look up through this window, and I see a box go past the window that says not flux capacitor, Mr. Fusion. I didn't care about anything else. I just wanted to see what was in that box. But those are the things that have from Back to the Future that I can recall that have been to the studio.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So like Joe shared with us, he got to see a DeLorean. Have you seen DeLoreans out in the world, like the full mock-up of the time machine?
I mean, I've seen the ones at Universal. I've never seen one outside of Universal that was set up like. Oh no, I'm wrong. There was one at Comic-Con years ago, like pre-pandemic. There was a DeLorean time machine at the Javits Center. I got to sit in a DeLorean once
Oh,
years ago, and it's not. It's as an uncomfortable a car to sit in as you would imagine. It's
yes.
very low to the ground.
Very
It's
low to the ground. Yeah.
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 What's sad is the guy who owned it was like, "You want to give it a drive?" And I was like, "I would love to, but it's a 5-speed manual," and I was like, "I don't know how to drive this car."
What to with
The best I
Was
got
it just a DeLorean or a DeLorean time machine?
it was just a DeLorean.
Okay,
Oh,
well, that
okay.
still would have been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad when you realize those cars, the doors don't make that classic like air release sound when you open them. Yeah.
It's,
Movie
Well,
magic.
I've been lucky to see a replica of that DeLorean time machine, and I did many, many, many years ago get to see the original Batmobile with Adam West and Burt Wood in costume. So all that's left now is I got to see a real Mach 5. That's
Mhm.
somebody's got to have
Not
one
the
of those.
Ecto one.
Well, okay, Ecto one, sure, but but my two favorite cars of all time is the Batmobile '66 and the Mach 5. I haven't seen a Mach 5 yet.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see an Ecto one at some point. I would see a DeLorean too, but I've not seen an Ecto or even like a replica of the Ecto one. I'd like to see an Ecto one at some
I've
point.
seen like fan made Ecto ones, but they're none of them are quite right. Like I've seen people turn like PT Cruisers into Ecto ones.
Oh,
I know you
okay.
gotta have
That
to.
car apparently is extremely hard to find now because of all the people who have turned them into movie cars.
There can't be that many DeLoreans either, because there's a lot of people who have like I know it's a small section, but given how many DeLoreans that exist, I think a lot of them have been turned into time machines.
Well, I don't know if they're still doing it, but for a little while at least, the DeLorean Motor Company was bought out by another company that had a location in Texas and I think 2 other states, but they were basically making new DeLoreans out of old stock when
Oh.
when DMC closed, and then they were also for a brief period they were selling time machine kits, so you
Wow.
could take your
Wow.
DeLorean, send it to them, and they would convert it into the DeLorean time machine, and it would be street legal at that
Wow.
point.
The Ecto one was based on it was like 1959 Cadillac Miller Meteor Sentinel.
Mhm.
I knew it was late 50s because it has fins on it, but I didn't know it was. I knew it was a Cadillac too, but yeah,
Yeah, they're apparently very hard to find now.
they have to be. Yeah,
They have to
Totally.
be, yeah.
Car is 66 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, all our favorite movie cars. Hopefully, we all get to see them. Joe, you've seen one. Patrick, you've seen a DeLorean, but hopefully we get to see them again at some point. So
I hope so.
I think this is a good start into our Back to the Future coverage. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
not complete because we're going to do a little bit more audience once we pick up Chris. We're going to go 88 miles per hour and find Chris wherever he is. Have him give some commentary on this 300th episode about his thoughts about Back to the Future. But we will have to cover 2 and we'll have to cover 3. Might as well do them individually, since I know we touched on them a little bit in this episode, but I think this episode is primarily focused on the original. And I'm sure when we talk about 2 and 3, we'll have more stories about the original, since 2 basically takes place in the middle of 1. So we'll do.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Right.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode, audience. But obviously, I could not take this travel Back to the Future without my guests. We've already had Josh say his goodbyes, but thank you very much, Joe.
Oh, you're welcome, James. As usual, as always, these are always a hoot. So I love doing them.
And thank you very much, Patrick.
Oh, my pleasure. Glad to be here.
Yes, and listening audience, obviously we'll be picking up again in a few moments with Chris. So we'll do the final wrap up when we get that going. So we'll head over there. All right, audience, we're back. If I've done this correctly, then precisely when you heard my last message, then we are back on and we're recording with you, because we had to get Chris on for the 300th episode. And right after that episode ended, there was a courier that knocked on my door and gave me a letter and told me that Chris had somehow taken his DeLorean, which was struck by lightning, and it was sent back in time to when Vikings and dragons were fighting, and he became the inspiration for his favorite movie, How to Train Your Dragon. And luckily, me and Joe dug out the DeLorean that was still in Hale Valley, and we took it back in time. We jump-started Chris's DeLorean, and now, Chris, you are back with us to talk about your thoughts on Back to the Future. So I'm glad we made it back here to record.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's really good to see you guys, but I'd be lying if I didn't at least admit that I really just wanted to stay there. Really, really just wanted to stay there. It's again really good to see you guys. Uh, but man, if I could have just built a new flux capacitor on that dragon and just come back flying on those train over those train tracks, that really would have been the sweet spot, I think.
Well, you were so close. We were so close. It seemed like you had it all working out when we finally got back there for you. So,
Yeah.
But Chris, I know you haven't heard anything that we recorded previously, which goes in line with a lot of our 100th episodes that are all linearly out of place in sorts.
I almost jumped to the future to hear the episode so I could come back and be informed. But I was worried I didn't have enough fuel to make 2 trips. And again, had to leave my dragon behind, so I wasn't really thinking straight. So you're right. I haven't heard what anybody else said because I came straight back here to 1973. Wait, no. Hang on. Sorry, wrong calculations. 2025. Sorry.
2025. Yeah. I was about to say, I'm not sure what time we wound up in, but hopefully it's close enough. So.
We're in the ballpark, and sometimes good enough is good enough.
And it always happens to you, Chris. Last time it was the transporter accident on our last 100th episode. So you were, but we got you here.
Listen. I think I've been really patient about this whole process, but I got to admit it's starting to feel a little bit like sabotage because it is always me.
Well,
and not to feed the conspiracy, but you never see me and Joe in the same place, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, but I'm just saying. I think there's something to it.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
Well, Chris, we're gonna just so audience. Obviously, we might cover some ground that we covered before, but we're covering with Chris this time, so we get to hear his comments. But Chris, I'm just going to open up that we all gave our thoughts. Because obviously, Back to the Future is a beloved franchise. For this episode, primarily, we're going to focus just on the first movie, but obviously, if other things from the part 2 and part 3 come up, we can address it. But I'm just going to say, my brother and Josh is one of their top movies, top franchises of all time. What are your thoughts, and where does this stand in the pantheon of movies for you?
Yeah, so it's really high up there. These are movies that I watched frequently enough that I could probably not anymore, but certainly going back 10 years, and certainly if you went back 20, definitely could probably transcribe the scripts from memory.
Wow.
Because I watched them so many times. I love them, and honestly, a lot of it I can't necessarily articulate why. It was funny listening to Patrick had recommended. I can't remember if this is when we were recording one of our Halloween episodes or if it was off the air. But he had recommended a podcast, and I don't know if that podcast came up when you all were talking about Back to the Future. But he had recommended, I think it's when everything goes wrong, or what went wrong. What went wrong is the name of the podcast, and it has a lot to do with like things that happen during movie making. And so there's one about Back to the Future, and it's really interesting. But somebody was like, "Yeah, I watched Back to the Future, and I didn't love it, but then I was like, maybe I should watch it again because it feels like there are things that I could enjoy." It's possible the Blues just scored a goal. I can't tell. There's yelling going on downstairs. But it's I can't necessarily articulate what I enjoy so much about it. The one thing I absolutely have to say that I think it really comes down to is that for as goofy as some of the jokes are and as goofy as the plot is, the actors I think are the reason that I love it as much as I do. I think there is a charm to Michael J. Fox that can't be beat. I think that Christopher Lloyd is just so much fun, and there's a great friendly dynamic between the two of them that they're so different from each other, but it allows them to play off of one another in so many ways. And then of course all the rest of the cast too, like they really fill it out nicely, that the comedic timing is there. I don't feel like anybody is greedy about like their comedic chops and the attention that they get on screen. Yeah, it's just all around really wonderful wonderful experience. I can't even say wonderful films because I'll be honest, I don't even know that they're necessarily that good when it comes to being films, but I can say that I enjoy them immensely, and there's an intangible quality to them that even after it's probably been, I don't know, maybe I saw them when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And here I am nearly 30 years later, and I will still pop them in and watch them, and just love them. So, and also they introduced me to things I didn't know before. Like I learned about Chuck Berry through this movie, and
Oh,
admittedly, the
good.
narrative is kind of problematic when you look at it that way. But like, product of its time and everything. But I was introduced to Johnny B. Good and Chuck Berry through that movie, and I felt that way about a number of things. So yeah, it's really high up there for me.
No, that's great. I think it's what we all landed upon too. It's the
Mm.
actors, it's the chemistry between Doc and Marty, it's the friendship. I am curious. I mean, there's obviously so much you can talk to, but having with your acting background, I'm just curious. Like some of like the choices that Christopher Lloyd, I'm just like the choices. Christopher Lloyd makes choices as an actor, and I'm just curious. Like, what are your like? It's not like he's not even direct. Like, it's not a direct line reading. Like, he's making specific comedic or affectations. I'm just curious, like, what you as an actor think about his like choices for that character.
I love his choices because they're outrageous. Like he got the script, he understood the assignment, which is that like the relationship only works if he's outrageous. Because if
Mm.
Marty is just some outrageous kid, then I don't know that if he's like, I think that's part of the dynamic that I enjoy most is he's not for the most part, he's not the wise old mentor talking to the young man who like needs to come into his own. It's that he's in a lot of ways a failed scientist. He's disgraced. We know he's disgraced. And he absolutely is wild. We understand why he has the reputation that he has, and it's Marty. It feels like it's Marty who has to rein Doc's weirdness in. And I guess originally, like they were going to nickname him in the script, he was nicknamed Prof. He was professor or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, nah, they got a note from, I think it was a producer, and normally those are not notes you're that interested in. But it's like, nah, you got to call him Doc, and that makes it work because now he's a character instead. It's sort of more character than he is person, if that makes any sense. The thing that I find most interesting is the choice as an actor, and I hate the choice because I don't feel like he plays a lot of things for laughs. I don't. I think a lot of the things he does, and this is why I think he and Michael J. Fox work together so well, is that they're committed to the seriousness of the character. It's just that this is who the characters are. They are funny by nature. So I think that's what works is that in a way, this is going to sound weird, but in a way, Christopher Lloyd picks a level and then plays it straight. He plays it straight at that level, and the location of the level, it's so elevated that we find it ridiculous and we can laugh at it.
Mm.
But he's playing natural at that level, so it doesn't feel like he's playing for laughs. The one time I feel like, and it's only because I have a direct contrast, it's the end of Back to the Future 1 and the beginning of Back to the Future 2, because they had to refilm the beginning of Back to the Future 2 with Elizabeth Shue as Jennifer, right? Marty's girlfriend. And since they had to do that, there are some lines that have to get delivered with a different actor, and so they get delivered differently. Now, most of them are in the ballpark of where they were at the end of one, but one that isn't is and forgive my language here, but it's a direct quote, and it's also not awful. We hear it on TV, but Marty says, Doc, what is it? What's wrong? I mean, are my kids a bunch of like, do we turn into a bunch of assholes or something? And in the first movie, Doc goes, no, it's nothing like that. He says it's us. Did we turn into assholes or something? And he's like, no, it's not you, Marty. It's your kids. It's your
Mm.
kids. And in the second movie, if you go back and you watch it, when he says, do we turn into, do we become a-holes or something? Doc thinks for like a second and a half. He just silence, which I don't have in the background here now, but it's, do we turn to a bunch of a-holes or something? And then you hear, oh, no. Like he actually, and he makes a face too, like he's thinking about whether or not that's what happens to Marty and Jennifer. And it doesn't work for me because it's played for a laugh. Because we know from the first movie that like, whereas, Marty is kind of joking around, like, what is it? Are we jerks? Do we become jerks or something? Is that the problem? And Doc is like, no, it's way more serious. It's your kids. And the way he delivers it with the same urgency he's been delivering everything else. So when he has to think about it, it's like he's trying to get you to laugh at the possibility that like Doc's trying to think like, wait, do they become jerks? Huh? The way they behave. No, it's not that. It's your kids. And so I have a direct line comparison, and I don't like the way he does it in the second movie because he plays it for a laugh. Now, if that line is delivered the same way in 1 and 2 as it is in 2, does it bother me as much? I don't think it bothers me as much because I don't have a direct comparison, but I still don't think I like the line because at no point do I get the impression from Doc that he's actually that absent, or he's rarely critical of Marty except those moments when he does have that wisdom of, you can't know too much about your own future. And even then it's more of like, as a scientist, the real wisdom comes in, I think, in Back to the Future 3. And in Back to the Future 2, he does mention something about your temper. Your temper gets you, it's what gets you into that car accident. And you can see he's concerned, and then the scientist takes over and he's like, you can't know too much about your own future. I've already said too much, right? So yeah, I love the way he delivers the lines because to me, he delivers them straight, but from an elevated level where we can't help but laugh at it. But he's bought into the reality of that character completely. So as an actor, I love his choices.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like I think we landed on that, and Joe and I have been talking about that with the recent Strange New Worlds episode we did. It's like Doc he's not trying to be funny.
Right.
He's funny to us. That's the same like Star Trek 4 show. Like those are not
Right.
trying to be funny.
No. The situations are funny, but the characters are playing it straight. Yeah.
Right.
Like Spock is funny, but he is not funny. It's because
what does it mean? Exact change. That's a very funny line, but that's what Spock would say.
Well, and the line doesn't work unless it's delivered straight.
Straight, exactly.
Right? It has to be he has to be bought in. It has to come from and that's why some jokes don't land. Is sometimes the joke itself is funny, but it's delivered too earnestly, and sometimes the joke is not that funny, but the actor delivering it dryly really works. Like, for example, I mean, when Superman starts to say, I hope this won't put you off of flying. Statistically speaking, it's still the safest way to travel. Like, that's not a funny line. That's just, he's just saying a fact. But he delivers it with earnestness, like that farm boy earnestness, that's what makes it kind of a laugh line. Is like, you can tell he's genuinely worried that like she might be too afraid to fly, and think of what she'd miss out on if she wouldn't get on a plane again. Like, that's what makes it funny.
Yeah, the before the line, "Did you care for a drink? No, thanks. I have a drink when I fly." I mean, it's delivered. You believe it. You believe he's actually saying that in earnest,
right?
And obviously,
he has the glasses and a cigar while he says it. Like,
exactly.
That's not funny.
And Marty and Doc are basically, they're a comedy team, and your comedy team always needs a straight man. Simple as that. It doesn't work without a straight man.
And it's interesting too because they do. I enjoy that they flip back and forth. That either of them can be the straight man.
That's yes.
not true of every comedic duo.
No,
but it works really, really well for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The insight that you just gave, like I like that because Christopher Lloyd, everything I've ever seen Christopher Lloyd in, he's made choices. Like he's always playing like Christopher Lloyd, but he makes like Uncle Fester and Krug in Star Trek 3 and Doc Brown and even Reverend Jim. They're Christopher Lloyd, but they're all different, I guess, frequencies of Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
And he picks like a level. Like if it's a he picks, sometimes takes it up to 11, sometimes it takes it to 5, sometimes but he makes these choices, and then he's in this area where I think all of his characters are earnest, but they're funny because of the level he's sticking with.
Right. And I think you see some of that skill that he has, especially in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, right?
Because that's right, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Because he effectively plays two characters, because he plays the human-looking judge, the judge who's wearing a rubber mask, and then he plays the animated Judge Doom, right? And you get glimpses of the animated Judge Doom behind the rubber mask, but like the way he delivers, because he can be very cartoony, and we know that about him already, but the way he delivers some of those like little smiles and looks and lines as like human Judge Doom is really unsettling, but it's also funny. Like it's really interesting. And you talk about him, he's always Christopher Lloyd, just playing different levels. It's the same thing in Clue when he's Professor Plum. Like he's a great Professor Plum, but like he's surrounded by so much comedic talent that he rarely takes it up to an 11 because he doesn't have to. So he very rarely takes it up to an 11. But with that merry band of misfits, even his 3 works really, really well with a lot of other people's 11s and with other people's 3s. I don't think Christopher Lloyd gets above if we're going to 11, I don't think he gets above like a 5 in Clue based on the range I've seen him have. I don't know that he gets above a 5, but it all reads really, really well. And I think that's something that you see his instincts for comedy, that he knows what his place is, and it's not like a stay in your lane situation. It's when you're performing, the way I've been taught to envision it is you're creating negative space. So as an artist, you know about negative space. It's space that you don't color, it's space you don't draw in, right? And that makes for interesting and dynamic poses, because the more negative space you have, the more space there is to fill with action, right? The more dynamic poses you can get. So on stage, create negative space for other actors to fill, right? So set it up and they can knock it down. And the more negative space you create, the more options they have from an acting standpoint. And sometimes that means physically, but a lot of times that means like from like intentionally, like from their acting intentions, right? And I think that's something that Christopher Lloyd is very good at doing. And that's not to downplay other actors. I think that's another reason why Back to the Future works so well and everybody works in concert, is because each of the actors gives the other actors in the scene a lot of choices. And so then it's not like, well, James said the line this way, so I have to say it this way in response. No, I have a lot of options that I can seize on. So as an actor, I get to play, and now you play, and now we're playing together. So it's that old improv rule of yes and instead of no but.
I mean, I think the only time he's ever been 11. And by the way, I forgot how much Christopher Lloyd informed my childhood, because I forgot about Clue,
Yes.
forgot about Roger Rabbit, I forgot about like Christopher Lloyd is like a guy. He's a staple of like
He is.
he's
The
he's like
80s, especially. Yeah. Oh my God.
yeah.
Taxi. I mean, Taxi made him a star. He was a
Yeah.
walk on. He was a
Mhm.
walk on, and for one episode, and they brought him back, and he became, next to Louis, he became the most important character in the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
every episode I've seen of Taxi with Christopher Lloyd is like is great. I don't want to make this just solely the Christopher Lloyd podcast, but he deserves a lot of love with
No, he does. He does. He absolutely deserves love. And I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, we're definitely not making it. I think he's worth talking about, but I was gonna say the thing that astonishes me about this is that Michael J. Fox in this movie, as an actor, I say this as an actor, Michael J. Fox is so young in this movie, but his instincts are so good. And when you know the story that like he was filming Family Ties at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
so originally he was not given the script for the movie. He was the one they wanted, but they didn't give him the producer didn't give him the script for the movie because he didn't want him to leave Family Ties. And then eventually it was like, okay, I'll deliver the script, but he has to. But he's still filming Family Ties. You have to work around the schedule, and they basically finished the movie at that point. So they went back and they refilmed a bunch of stuff, but they had to film it at night. So he would work on Family Ties all day, and then he would go to the movie set and he would work on Back to the Future at night. So like the amount of work that he put in on as little sleep as he had, the fact that he didn't overplay his hand, the fact that he was able to play that character so well, is just, as an actor, it blows my mind, because I've done that thing where I've booked too many shows at the same time, and I'm in wrapping up one, I'm in rehearsals for another, and I'm about to open something else kind of thing. And I gotta tell you, that energy just isn't there. Like, you think you can do it, and then next thing you know, you're sleeping in rehearsal breaks. Like, hey, we're taking dinner. Great, that's 40 minutes I can spend sleeping, right? And I do, and then I come back and I'm a little bit groggy because I just woke up, and also I'm on an empty stomach because I didn't actually eat because I was sleeping. Like, it doesn't. So the fact that he pulls that off is truly an incredible feat to me.
Yeah, and he's also doing physical comedy in this movie too.
Yeah.
So you factor that in, right? Yeah, and that's wow.
And he's learning to play the guitar. Well, not learning, but he's like also refining like how to play because I remember I was sharing the other part of our podcast that I listened to the audio of his recent book that came out of where he talks about that time where he did Back to the Future and Family Ties at the same time, and he was like in the spare time, whatever he had, he was trying to refine his guitar so that because he wanted his hands to be shown. He's like, Robert Zemeckis. He's like, I want my hands. I want to do a cutaway and have you turn to a guitar person. So like, just it is incredible that he did what he did for this movie to like make it so iconic. And and as we talked about with Josh and my brother, he like nails the role. Like he just is the role.
We talked about how he was one of two actors in the 80s who did this, the other being William Shatner. He wasn't Captain Kirk, he was TJ Hooker. Right. And he was doing the same thing. running back and forth to sound stages and working till God knows what hours of the morning.
Yeah.
Early, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Level of energy is incredible, really incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of his choices, because I was saying, like, at least in his bio, I don't know if the podcast might have shared this too, but like a lot of the comedic pratfalls and physical comedy
Oh,
he
it's
did was
great.
his idea. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't in the script. And just like you said, Chris, like little sleep, coming in the middle of a project, and his comedic like wisdom to know like this is funny. Like
Right.
me falling here, sliding across the car. Like he just has this instinct for like to be at that level, even though he's like a 20-year-old actor doing
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
And I was going to say with the transition of like just say of like people who are dialed in, who are committed to picking a level. Like you have Christopher Lloyd at one end who's doing his thing. You have Michael J. Fox, and then the other one who I know caused some maybe problems with the director, but like you have Crispin Glover who's doing his own thing
Yes.
and fighting for his space. But he turns in a great George McFly too, despite whatever might have gone on in the filming. Like Crispin Glover's George McFly is phenomenal.
Yeah, oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, Crispin Glover is great, and it's really it's interesting because it's easy to lose at least some of his performance in the movie, I think. But it's really excellent. He does a great job of making room for other people, but I love his various mannerisms. I love the various little things he does, both with his speech and physically. It really works well, and I think he sets it up perfectly in the very beginning. He sets it up very well in the very beginning when they're having dinner.
Yes, he does. I mean, just I think John, like, well, and all the stuff in the 50s where he's the soft affectation of his voice or the insecurity, like just that he nails that like really insecure, lack of confidence voice and mannerisms. It is a marvel how like so many things, as the podcast said, could have gone wrong with all the different personalities and stuff. But you have this like perfect movie of just a balance. Like I said, nobody's greedy in any of the scenes.
No, not at all. And you know who I think I was just looking it up, but it was Leah Thompson, who plays Lorraine, Marty's mom. That she talks about how much she liked Crispin. She really liked working with Crispin Glover a lot. And she was very sad when he didn't come back after the first movie. But it's still one of my favorite interactions between the two of them is in the milkshake shop when he says, I'm your density. That whole exchange is just wonderful. And also like it starts when he walks into the place and says, I'll have a milk chocolate. Like, and he like swigs it and just like slams it down and wipes it. Like, I don't know what it is about him that he's such a nerd, but he doesn't come off to me as like the sort of stereotypical nerd. I love that he's got his little pad and he's writing down pickup lines, and I don't know what it is about. I should have spent more time thinking about it, but I can't articulate what it is exactly that I really so enjoy about his performance. But I think it's great.
I think he just like, I mean, I never kind of thought about it until this conversation after how many times I've seen the movie, but he's just sort of a guy who lacks confidence, because you think like, I mean, whether the writers or given how much they had to do in that production, but Marty's confidence has to come from somewhere, even though he didn't get, like, his father has it. Like, he's just not a confident guy, but he does have the ability, I guess, to be, cool at some, like, he's not cool there, but Marty brings that out of him. He brings it out of his father. So it has to be there, exists somewhere, because Marty's got, like, we talked about he's kind of an underdog, but Marty handles everything very confidently, considering his size and to Biff and everything. He's always like,
see, I don't think that's a confidence thing. I think that's an insecurity, actually. I think it's his insecurity that he tries to puff himself up, and it's his anger that gets him there. So I don't think it's a confidence thing, because when it comes to things he cares about, especially his music, like, I don't know if I'm cut out for music, right? So I don't think it's a confidence thing. I think when it comes to Biff, I think it's his anger, as the little guy, as the underdog, that he doesn't like being that way. He doesn't like being underestimated. But I also think that there's some like overcompensation that happens there, because of his lack of confidence. I think he sees what happened with his dad, like even before he goes back in time. I think he sees his dad, and he doesn't want to be his dad, which a lot of us, and that's another thing too, a lot of us can relate to not wanting to turn into our parents, but also not knowing like what were our parents like when they were kids. A lot of us don't ask. And then of course there's gonna be stuff that our parents don't share with us. There's stuff I'm not gonna share with Elliot. Why would I share it? It's not his business. But there's stuff that we don't know about our parents, and a lot of us don't want to become our parents, or we want to become parts of our parents, but we don't want all the parts of them, right? We don't want to be little clones of them, even if we really admire them. We don't want to be this person junior, right? Like, so I think that resonates. But yeah, I think rather than it being confidence, I do think there's a coolness factor. There's a coolness factor that George doesn't have. But then we kind of learn that he gets it from his mom, right?
Yeah.
Because Lorraine is the one who's cool and smokes and has friends and like gets hit on, but like she's the cool one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think we also talked about, and I'd be curious for you. Obviously, we're just focusing on the first movie, but what is like your favorite part of like your favorite scene, favorite line, favorite moment? If you can pick one, you can pick two.
Oh man.
At a certain point, we were just quoting lines for a little bit, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's that's another thing that I love about the movie, is that the quotability of it is so high. Like a lot of the movies of their time were. I mean, when you look at some of our favorite movies, we're naming things like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters. We're naming these movies that have these quotes that we can break out at any time, right? Man, if I had to pick a favorite,
like we with The Godfather.
There you go.
Make an offer you can't refuse.
Or Star Trek 4.
Okay. Probably two favorite parts, and both are sort of the same. I have a third that was my favorite when I was a kid, and that's when he actually like gets into playing Johnny Be Good. I really like that scene. But my two favorites are probably one when he comes out of the barn in the radiation suit, and the farmer and it's like, and the kid's like, look, he's already morphed into human form, pa, shoot it. Like, and that whole exchange I think is hilarious, mostly because I think I got some parts of it when I was a kid, but some of it I just kind of missed. But as I got older, I was like, no, this is actually just really, really funny. And then the second time has to be when I'm Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And it's that bridge, because that part is funny, but then it's the very next scene when, as they're walking and George is moving fast, he's like, whoa, George, slow down. No. Last night, Darth Vader came down from the planet Vulcan. He threatened, and the seriousness with which Crispin Glover delivers these lines at breakneck pace, like, I have to do this now or he will fry my brain. Those are some of my favorite moments that I think are just, they're so funny. There is an authenticity to them that I really enjoy. And it's one of the few times that I really go, this is making a really great use of futuristic materials in the past. They do that a couple of other times, but mostly they're hiding the DeLorean. They don't want it to be seen. And sure, Back to the Future 3, Frisbee far out. And what did he mean? It was right in front of him. And like, there's some of those and they're okay. But, by far, those are my two favorite like uses of future technology in the past, and seeing how it's interpreted is just delightful for me. What did you guys pick? Like, I'm looking forward to hearing the whole episode, but briefly, what did you two pick?
Can I just say, is that the same scene where he's telling all that to Marty, and Marty's trying to open up a Coke, and George just immediately like takes it and like opens it up without breaking stride in his like whole monologue.
Station. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. It's also just like brilliant. Like there's physical comedy going on while he's giving that whole monologue.
Yeah. It's really good.
Sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to cut you off.
For me, it was we said this. I said this on the previous episode. For me, it was the first sweet shop scene when he sits down next to his father, doesn't realize, and then of course the Biff comes in and he goes McFly, and he stopped. He's not, he's talking to McFly. Yeah, I just thought that was a great scene. I love that scene.
Yeah, and I want to hear what you have to say, but also at some point, I know we'll talk about it, but like Thomas F. Wilson, we gotta get to. But like, go ahead, James. I want to hear your favorite scene.
I don't know if I ever gave one because I was asking the question, but since you asked, I think I would probably agree with my brother, and my brother's favorite scene I think I enjoy too is the is the model scene in the garage
That's a great
where
scene.
Doc is first like, well, I apologize for the lack of
Yeah.
scale and detail.
Yes. Yeah.
And then his reaction to when the rags catch on fire is like, oh, like that's
Yeah. No, it's really, really good. That
which is like
face,
a 9.5 on the Christopher Lloyd scale. I think he
Yes.
takes it like to a 9.5 for that scene, but
that face he makes is and the sound he makes. You're right. It's absolutely excellent.
I also like I think it's in the first one. Isn't the first one where he's like you're not thinking 3-dimensionally, or is that number 2? I think it's 3. He like goes to Marty.
No, he says it in 2. I think for the first time he says it in 2, and then he says it again in 3, or he says it because I'm pretty sure it may also just be he says it at the beginning of 3 and then again at the end of 3. I can't remember which.
Okay.
Because the second, I think that's what it is. I think he says that at the beginning of 3, and then he says it again at the end of 3. Because when he says it towards the end of 3, Marty goes, "Yeah, nothing. I know. I have a real problem with that." So I think it's all in 3.
Okay, I like that. I don't know why I thought it was like, oh, maybe this one is. I'm thinking like he's like when Marty's like, is there something wrong with the Earth's gravity in the future? Why is everything always like? Why is everything heavy all the time?
Yeah, yeah. Everything is so heavy. Yes, I like that's the other thing too. I like the younger Doc Brown, the one we see in 1955, because of there's a level of seriousness because and this is where I think it gets interesting from a character standpoint. Is like he's so isolated in 55 that he doesn't I know Heavy is from the future, but he's so isolated in 55 that he doesn't really have as much, like, he can't relate to people as well, and it's Marty who really opens that up for him, so that by the time 85 rolls around, like, he's ready for friendship, and I like that. I don't know, there's something about that I enjoy.
No, I think it's great. I also like the fact that even older Doc Brown, who, with all the timey-wiminess of this movie, the future Doc Brown knows everything that's going to happen, but he's still Doc Brown. Like, he didn't, like, it's not like he's playing him as, he's still kind of just as silly, as whimsical as old-timey Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Like, he just has more knowledge, I guess, of how the space-time continuum works, but he's still the same guy.
Yes. Yeah.
He's just older.
Yeah. No, it doesn't change him in a way where he's unrecognizable, for sure, or he's a totally different person. I like that, because this is something that we get from the Back to the Future trilogy, is that, like, Doc and Marty both get to grow. They both have space to grow, and we see that in the first film, but then they both actually grow, and it's fun to see that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you wanted to talk about somebody else too, Chris, and we were going to get to
Thomas F. Wilson, who plays Biff.
Yes.
Because he plays a bunch of different versions of himself over the course of the trilogy, and I am here for it. Even in the first movie, he plays 3 different versions of himself, because he plays Biff in the present, he plays Biff in the past, and then he plays the new and, like, cowed Biff at the end of the movie, right? Where he's still Biff, but he lies about waxing the car, and he goes, I'm sorry, Mr. Fly, I'm just finishing up the first coat now, right? Like, but he's still Biff. And so, like, playing the same Biff, but 3 Biffs in the movie is something that just always really impresses me. I actually, the other night, I just, because I could use a laugh, I went back and I rewatched. Have either of you watched The Good Place?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Great movie.
So I went back and I watched the Janet's episode, when everybody is in the void, and Darcy Carden plays like 8 different characters, all in the same, and it's not like she makes up the characters, right? She is playing like several versions of herself, but then she plays like 4 actors as herself, as those actors. Like, Joe, if you ever get around to it, it is an incredible piece of work to see how the speech patterns and the mannerisms that she gets down for these 4 actors, and recognizable regulars, right? That it's not like one little bit. It's not like she says their lines and sounds like them. I heard Kevin Pollak was doing an interview, and he was doing some imitations, and it was actually on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast.
You ever see Kevin Pollak's Captain Kirk? It's great.
Yeah, it is great. But he specifies, he's like, I don't like to do impressions of famous lines they've said, because I don't like that. That's I don't want to say it's easy. I don't want to say it's lazy, but I don't want to do. So his thing is he likes to say other things like that character, because that's how he feels the character. And it's the same thing with Darcy Carden, how she does that. And so it always impresses me when actors can portray multiple parts in a movie and do it well. And that's something that I think Wilson does well as Biff. And I really, it's also interesting because for me personally, because of the work that I do in anti-violence, I am very sensitive to any character that would sexually assault another character. And that's what he does in the movie, right? He tries to do that to Lorraine. How is it that I can still enjoy, like, I don't like the character, but I enjoy watching the character and he can make me laugh? That is all. That's not the writing. That is not the writing. That is 100% an actor who does such a good job finding a balance with a difficult role that I can still enjoy the work he's doing, because he's not like one of those characters, like, you know, people will talk about a character that you love to hate. Biff is not a character that I love to hate. I just enjoy watching him, and that is really a testament to the tremendous work that Wilson does as an actor.
Yeah, there are characters throughout movie history that are villains, and because of the performances, we almost accept what they're doing. And for me, it's Michael Corleone. It's Al Pacino.
Sure.
He makes him a nuanced, rounded character. Michael is referred to as a monster numerous times, and he is a monster, but it's a monster that we can't take. You know, and then of course there's Dexter Morgan, and there's what's his name from Breaking Bad, Heisenberg, right? These are characters. You know, I can't. What's his real name?
Walter White.
Thank you, Walter White. We can't take our eyes off because the performances are so good.
Tony Soprano.
Thank you, Tony Soprano. Yeah. Thank you.
You know,
There you go.
yeah, but
James Gandolfini, incredible actor, incredible talent.
Yeah, I think you have to really. I mean, you also have to know the tone of the film, because obviously, as we pointed out, this movie was a little bit more serious when we had the first actor, and I'm not. This is nothing against Eric Stoltz, because he made a choice. He made a choice, and he was their second choice, and it wasn't the movie they wanted. No. And the movie deals with heavy stuff of the 1950s and just heavy stuff in general. And if you don't have the right tone or the right actors or the right combination of actors, this movie wouldn't work. This movie might be more serious. So it really does take the actor, and Chris, obviously you can speak this more than me, but I'm saying, like, the actor knowing the material, knowing the tone, and knowing how to play it, so that, which is quite a high wire act that he does very seamlessly, that you don't even think about it.
Yeah. No, listen, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. As an actor, you need to be able to read the room. And sometimes, and I've done that before, where, like, sometimes I get the comedy of a script and sometimes I just don't. And in fact, I a while ago, I brought in, there was a playwright who had written a play. I'm not going to say which one, because I don't think she listens, but just, you know, there was a playwright who wrote a play that I really enjoyed, and I had her come out and direct it. And it's her play, and she had directed it before. And she directed this one scene in a way that I just hated. I just hated. The scene is funny. It's very funny, but the pace was too slow. She wanted to make sure that every little joke landed and that people had time to process it. And that was not the comedy we needed. We needed it to be breakneck. When it comes to a script, you need to kind of know what kind of a response do you want to get from the audience. And it just wasn't the right feel for having Eric Stoltz in there, from what I understand, based on the podcast and things that I've read. That's not, it was too, you're right, James. It was too heavy, because it's not a very, when you watch it, when you really look at the script and what happens objectively, it's dark, right? But we have enough actors bringing so much light that we can acknowledge that and still enjoy it, as opposed to it being a heavy film.
Yeah. And I personally, like, when you view it, like, after the research we've done for this podcast, and obviously living with these movies for so long and having so many discussions with you and Josh and like about this movie, like, I feel like even though if you look at it from the way the script is written, the way Eric Stoltz was coming from it, that it's very sad. I also feel like Marty would be okay with his new family. I don't know. And that's because of Michael J. Fox. The way he portrays it. Also, he's a guy who's traveled through time now, through multiple. I feel like he's also a guy like, well, this is my mom and dad now. We can.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that's.
I never thought of that, but you're right, James.
Yeah, when you slow down and you think about it, it's like, no, there's this entire, because we see it with X-Men Days of Future Past, right?
Yeah.
Like Logan is like there's a lot of history that he doesn't know now. It's a whole world of history that only he knows. But also it's the load is lightened because he's not the only one who's experienced it, because Doc was there with him.
Again, that's my interpretation of it. I never thought about it much, to be perfectly honest, until like getting ready for this podcast
Yes,
and
yeah.
thinking about it. I was just sort of like, I just feel like that version of Marty could roll with it because he's rolled with so much else that
Yeah.
seems like impossible.
Right.
Right.
Qualities. You can roll with a punch, Marty. He can,
Like, so he could. I feel like he could.
figuratively.
Yeah, I feel like he could roll with like family history that he doesn't remember, or he'll get caught up along the way.
Right.
It won't impact his life too much, or at least as bad as maybe Eric Stoltz's portrayal is. Again, nothing against Eric Stoltz.
It's not. These movies aren't a tragedy, and it sounds like his portrayal of them was like it was a tragedy. Not his portrayal, but like made the movie a tragedy, and that was not what was needed.
Well, I think we got at least the first movie. We're obviously going to have to dive deeper into 2 and 3 because there's
Absolutely.
so much material in there, and hopefully that time all of us will be together in some form. But
no more
Chris,
sabotage. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Joe.
Sabotage. Well, I'm just, I commit these acts of sabotage because I'm in grief over my New York Rangers. I just can't help myself.
Yep.
Isn't it a long season though? Will they like?
It's a long season, but I was talking to Christina about this actually. It's not as long as it feels like, because I told her, I'm like, a lot of playoff teams are kind of locked in by Thanksgiving. She's like, no, because the season goes till April.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, by Thanksgiving it's only been 2 months, and it's like, right, but at Thanksgiving, just do yourself a favor, look at the standings. Look at the standings at Thanksgiving, and then look at them come playoff. There's going to be some shuffling of like seeds, like first seed, second seed, third seed, blah, blah, blah. And there will be a couple of teams that manage to sneak in. But by and large, most of the teams that are like up there just stay up there. It's really kind of nuts. Every single year, I'm like, well, there's still time. Well, there's still a chance. Things could still change. And then I hear radio folks, Shayna Goldman, Allison Lucan, Sarah
WFAN here in New York.
Yeah, I hear Jeff Merrick and Greg Wyshynski and Elliot Friedman all know way more about hockey. They know way more about hockey than I ever will. And they're like, yeah, by Thanksgiving, a lot of teams, know where they're going to be. And every year I'm like, I don't believe that. And by the end of the season, it's like, oh, yep, there we are. So it's wild. The Rangers are not in good shape. Like they are. It's 100% panic time. Can they right the ship? Absolutely, especially if history has shown us that teams in the Metro like to go, no, you take the last playoff spot. No.
Yeah, we've talked about that many times, right, Chris?
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, they're in trouble. I'd be hitting the panic button for sure.
I already hit the panic button.
Well, audience, it's 300 episodes, and we're talking about Back to the Future, and you still got a little bit of sports. So
we give you everything.
We don't disappoint.
Hold on. The reason they got some sports is because when we do Back to the Future 2, we got to talk about the Sports Almanac. So
absolutely,
that's it right there.
Cubs won the World Series a year after they predicted, but a year after.
That's right.
We can forgive that. A little mixed up in the time stream. That's all. Sure, like 1 year off is not that
blip.
Bad. Yeah. Flip. So, well, listening audience, if you can believe it, this is 300 episodes of podcasting. Technically, just a little bit more because some episodes had a part A and a part B, but this is officially
we're with the official,
a legacy numbering. This is 300 episode 300. So thank you for the ride. I know I did a wrap up on the last podcast, but I'm going to do it again because we're the three hosts are here. So thank you very much, Joe, for 300 episodes.
Oh, you're welcome, James, and thank you for starting this podcast. It's kept me awake. As a person who's retired, I need this. so thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for 300 episodes.
Oh, James, Joe, it is my genuine joy and pleasure. I've really, this has been wonderful. Thank you, James, for starting this and keeping us on track. Always ever the responsible one. But beyond that, for folks, if you're not, if you haven't been on the show, if you haven't been a guest, if you haven't been a co-host, you don't necessarily know this part, but you won't be surprised by what I have to say, which is that James also follows up with folks. He asks how we're doing. He checks in. He's not just the responsible one, but he's the caring and loving one. So very, very grateful for your friendship, James. I don't know that I realized how much I missed I didn't realize just how much I missed Mint and the people of Mint until you got us all reconnected. So that's been lovely. And Joe, this has been absolutely incredible. I think I spent a decent amount of time in the store talking to you, but I never got this much time with you. And a lot of times it felt like we covered some of the same old ground, mostly because we only saw each other so often. There was always new Batman, Superman to talk about, but we didn't really talk sports with each other. I learned some things from you about comics, but it's not like I have over these past 300 episodes. You're just a lovely, lovely man, and I've been
Well, thank
really,
you,
really
Chris.
grateful to learn from you and laugh with you, and it's just been a joy. So 300 has been really, really special for me.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Obviously, I have a lot of love for you. I'm glad we reconnected. When we did, I'm glad we could rebuild our friendship after a little gap there, and I'm glad you both took the ride onto this. And we start the count to 400, whichever
Yep.
wherever we're going to be at that moment. But and listening audience, obviously now we have 300 episodes of a podcast. If you're
Wild.
jumping in for this episode particularly, it's your first, welcome. You can go back, and you every episode might not be for you, but I guarantee you we have something in there that's for you.
yeah.
Just like Mnintcondition always was. It's not all for you, but you're gonna find at least something you like.
Yeah, we have sports, we have movies, we have TV shows, we have comic book deep dives. We have you could just go in there and search through the back issue bin of our podcast to find something that you want. And the good thing is it's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. So
No dollar box, no dollar boxes.
This is the culture that the Grosses and then Richie and then Joe really cultivated there. Is it's always like, no, we want to help you find something you like, but first and foremost, we're glad you're here. And I think James, you've done a lovely, the three of us as co-hosts, but James, you've really set the tenor here for Secret Origins. So listening members, we're glad you're here.
We are glad you're here, yes. And the only thing we say is if you have the time, you have something nice to say, a comment, always welcomed, especially about Back to the Future. I'm sure you have thoughts, especially if you're our age group. I'm sure you've seen this movie many times. If you have time, a rating and review on Spotify or Amazon, on Apple, something that begins with an A, folks.
Yeah.
And we started a Discord. It's invitation only, so you can't search for it. But if you send an email to secretoriginsmc@gmail.com, we can send you an invite. You can join the Discord. We're kind of moving our community over there. We are still on Facebook, but we're probably going to make the community more a Discord community at some point. So, and we're on Instagram too. I don't post as much as I could, but for this episode, I'm definitely going to be posting some stuff that we've talked about. My brother's 1/4 or whatever scale that was. Replica that he has is just going to be posted there.
It's gorgeous.
And maybe some other fun pictures that some of us will have as well. So we thank you for listening, and next time we'll see you will be episode 301.